Mauricio Pochettino is all but confirmed to be the new USMNT coach. And today I want to talk about 7 things that he needs to prioritize as he settles into this new job and as he prepares to take this team forward toward 2026. What up, guys? I'm Pete, host of the 11 Yanks Show. We talk about everything in American men's soccer here on this channel, but especially the national team, and it's an exciting time to be a fan of the national team, to be a fan of soccer in the U.S. in general. Yes, the summer that we had was abysmal, but Mauricio Pochettino represents a new dawn for this team, a new hope, a new opportunity for the future. And I want to talk a little bit about what, in my opinion, are some things that he needs to do. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things he needs to do, but what are the priorities? What are the things that between now and 2026, if he does these things, will maximize the chances of this team having success as we host the World Cup on home soil? Before we get into it, though, let's have a quick word from our sponsor.
Underdog Fantasy Sports is back with a new and improved pick'em game across all sports that makes it easy to play fantasy sports with just a few clicks. Each sport allows you to build a parlay that includes between 2 and 5 predictions about the outcomes of player projections. As you would expect, the more picks you include, the greater the potential payout. Don't go crazy with it and play responsibly, but adding a few bucks here and there to a game gives it a little more excitement and stakes. Use my promo code 11YANKS or click the link in the description to start playing, and Underdog will match whatever you put in your account up to $100. Enjoy!
Also, don't forget, I still use BetOnline. Believe is the code. All right, let's dive into this now, guys. Number 1, establish a culture of accountability. Wow, this is a big one, and in my opinion, his number 1 job. American soccer, for as long as it has existed, but especially in the last 30 or so years, has been plagued by a lack of accountability. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. There is a perception that because soccer is a niche sport in this country, the way to make it more popular is to be a cheerleader for the sport. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a cheerleader for the sport. I consider myself a cheerleader for the sport. But when you only say positive things about it, when you are only a cheerleader, you delegitimize it as a sport, right? American sports fans want something real. The same thing that they have with all the other sports in this country. They want accountability. They want criticism when people are doing wrong, whether it's on the field or in the front office or whatever. They want that. That's what is a sport. That's what a sport is all over the world, right? It isn't, U6 soccer. And the reason I believe that we have so much of that lack of accountability in this country is because of that mentality. And not only is it counterintuitive, because you chase people away from it because it seems like some phony rec league shit where media can't even criticize, the people who run the game in this country and don't, right? Hardly ever. And if they do, it's very soft pedal and it's a lot of like kumbaya, campfire. Look, soccer, it's growing. That's the sort of thing that pushes people away. But that aside, that also creates a culture that lacks accountability. And it starts in the federation and you see it all the way down through the levels to the youth level. Now, what does a lack of accountability look like? The Federation hiring Berhalter for a second time when he did nothing to deserve it is a lack of accountability. Berhalter calling in so many players for years who didn't deserve to be on the national team and using excuses like vibes or energy or all kinds of nonsense in order to justify their call-ups. That's a lack of accountability. The media soft-pedaling every criticism they have, if they have any at all, and mostly finding excuses to try to defend the powers that be while shitting on the fans. That's a lack of accountability. The players themselves have a serious lack of accountability when it comes to playing for the national team. You see it in Weston McKennie showing up overweight for a major tournament, right? You see it in Tyler Adams deciding, and Greg succumbing to this, that he should start every single game in Copa America even though he'd been injured for a year and a half. You see it in Tim Weah thinking it is okay, even Serginho Dest thinking it's okay to be petulant and potentially lose a game for your team by getting a stupid red card. And in Tim Weah's case, then playing victim afterwards and saying, people are trying to paint me as a violent man. Nobody was trying to paint you as a violent man. You did a violent thing that hurt the team and got sent off, right? It's Christian Pulisic being allowed to take set pieces that he's not good at just because he's the face of the team and because Berhalter's his boy. It's the players asking for a coach that was very obviously not capable of taking us to the next level. That's a lack of accountability. That is a cultural problem. And Pochettino is going to have to come in and change that. And sure, it's not going to change overnight, and it certainly isn't something that, he can do by himself. But having been at the high levels, it's going to be in the way he selects his teams, the way he talks to his players, the way he talks to the media, the demands that he makes. This is going to be very, very important and a big, big part of Pochettino's job. Klinsmann was not the greatest coach, but he did try to do this. He was the one pushing our guys to go abroad. He was constantly talking about them being uncomfortable. And you know what? He might not have been the best tactical coach, but in terms of results, he got us a lot further than Greg Berhalter ever did. And so I'm hoping that Pochettino brings that same energy. This idea that the coach needs to come in and change his methods in order to adapt to the American player or the American soccer environment is utter nonsense, guys. It is American exceptionalism at its finest. These players are the same as every other player in the world. They need to be held to the same standards, just like they are at their clubs, right? And then when they come here, there needs to be pressure, there needs to be accountability. I'll hold my hands up and say on my own part, I think I haven't always been hard enough on these players. And I have defended them at times when maybe they deserved more criticism. So from my part, I maybe also play a part in this lack of accountability. And I think I can be better about that in this coming cycle. But Pochettino is going to have a big, big job in terms of changing the culture. And credit to U.S. Soccer, even just this hire is a way of changing the culture. Because you're saying, we recognize that our American coaches here in the Mickey Mouse League aren't good enough, and we need to go get a coach that's got high-level experience for this World Cup. So that's already a good step in the right direction. All of our players who are going to push themselves in Europe is a step in the right direction. The fan base becoming more educated and more knowledgeable and actually trying to hold this team accountable, as we have been to some degree at least, and certainly putting pressure on the media and the federation to cover this like a real sport. These are all steps in the right direction, and I hope that Mauricio Pochettino can further that endeavor. Number 2, get rid of the Leadership Council. The Leadership Council was Greg Berhalter's not idea, because he got it from British Berhalter, Gareth Southgate, and it was all about supposedly getting the players to take ownership of the team. Here's the problem with that. It essentially created a clique of players that were Berhalter's favorites, players that always got to play, that almost always got to do whatever they wanted. And it created an atmosphere in the team where these are like the special chosen ones because they're like the teacher's pets and everybody else couldn't go against them. That's why when they rehired Berhalter, who were all the ones that came out and defended him? McKennie, Adams, Pulisic, Weah. This is the Leadership Council. These were the guys that had the special place in the Berhalter regime, and it created an atmosphere where these guys were set above the others. And I don't care what the media says or Berhalter says about how much they loved each other. There were absolutely cliques in camp. We know this for a fact, okay? There were cliques in camp. There was bad blood, maybe not to a great extent, but certainly to a degree. And so getting rid of the Leadership Council and putting everybody on even footing in terms of their responsibility to the team is going to be crucial. And Pochettino is bigger than any of these players. So there will be no Tyler Adams demanding to play. There will be no, passes given to players who were his favorites. If you don't play the way he wants you to play, you won't be a part of the team. I have a feeling. And I think getting rid of the Leadership Council and putting all the players on an even footing is going to be a good thing. At best, it was a dumb corporate strategy brought into sports, which is happening more and more these days, and more often than not, it's detrimental to the game. At its worst, it created a toxic little clique that was not good for the team, and certainly was not good for the players who leadership didn't seem to apply to them. Because believe me, there were many times that these guys did not show leadership over the course of the Berhalter tenure. Number 3, figure out how to get the best out of Christian Pulisic, Giovin, Reyna, and Reyna and Balogun. These are our 3 best attacking players. And if we want to have success at a high level, if we want to have success in the World Cup, it is incumbent on Pochettino to figure out how to get the most out of these 3. Now, very likely Pochettino is going to play a 4-2-3-1. My guess is Reyna will be at the 10, Pulisic on the left wing, and Balogun up top. But whatever formation he uses and whatever roles and responsibilities he gives them within the team, getting the most out of those three players is going to be extremely important to the success of this team. Number 4, figure out the goalkeeping situation for 2026. If we want to have a reliable goalkeeper for 2026, we have to start looking now. I don't think Matt Turner is that guy. I honestly don't know who that guy is going to be. And this is a conundrum that Pochettino has to solve. Matt Turner is at best a championship level goalkeeper, and maybe that's fine for 2026. I don't know. Ethan Horvath continues to make mistakes even in the championship and has never been fully reliable. None of the MLS keepers currently stand out as somebody that should get a start. You know, you could maybe argue for Patrick Schulte, but even at the Olympics, he didn't exactly cover himself in glory. Matt Freese has had an impressive season for NYCFC. I don't really know if he's the level that we are looking for. And then there's Zach Steffen, who had a rough start in Colorado and you know, does seem to be recovering, but I'm not sure he's that guy either. Then there are people saying Gabriel Slonina should start. I disagree. Gabriel's a promising 20-year-old goalkeeper with some talent and certainly has looked quite good with a lot of his shot stopping, is still extremely shaky playing out of the back or just playing with the ball in general. And it's not just that he's shaky, he lacks the basic technical tools to be a goalkeeper who plays out of the back. And so, to be fair, that is true of most of our goalkeepers. And so Pochettino, who's known for playing out of the back, has to figure out, is he going to try to risk it with one of these guys and just hope that it works when very likely it won't? Under pressure, at least, getting pressed, trying to play out of the back, it's just not going to work. How do you then solve that? Now, some people will say, what about Diego Coach and call him up? You know, goalkeeper's a position where unless you are unbelievably talented, young goalkeepers are not going to get you far in a World Cup. Experience matters between the sticks, and confidence matters between the sticks. And so, obviously, you need to have talent, and maybe some of these young goalkeepers do, but it's a very heavy responsibility to put on a young goalkeeper's shoulders, especially a goalkeeper who has not played a single professional minute of soccer in his life. We are less than 2 years out from the World Cup, and anointing a 19-year-old or 18-year-old and saying you are the guy for 2026, I just don't buy it. There are prospects coming through, but for me right now, nobody is grabbing that spot or really standing out and saying this is going to be the guy by 2026. And Pochettino has got to figure this one out, whatever that means. I'm at a complete loss of what he's going to do, but I trust him. I trust that he's going to do what's best for the team and maybe make some changes if necessary, and we'll see what happens. Number 5, figure out our center back pairing. That's the other part of the field that is quite weak. I would say in every other aspect of the game, we're relatively deep enough. You could argue maybe that fourth winger spot isn't great, but in every other position on the field, it's looking pretty good. In center back, though, we have some issues, right? I mean, Chris Richards is probably still a starter, although he didn't exactly perform in Copa America. He didn't have a great opening day for Crystal Palace, but, you know, small sample sizes. He was very good for Palace in the last half of last season. Tim Ream is aging and, you know, now playing in a retirement league. Walker Zimmerman and Miles Robinson are, MLS lifer center backs who I don't trust at a World Cup. Cameron Carter-Vickers is still at Celtic, not pushing himself. Austin Trusty's back down in the championship. Mark McKenzie, to his credit, has made that move to Toulouse. Let's see, how much he plays. And when he does, how does he do in the French league? But this is a conundrum. What about some of the young guys? What about Jalen Neal? There aren't a lot of great options that are playing professional soccer right now. And again, 2 years out from the World Cup, somebody pointing to some 18-year-old and saying he's going to be the guy. I'm just not so sure that's true. Again, center back is a position that relies heavily on experience. And of course, you need talent as well. But it's not an easy problem to solve right now. And how Pochettino approaches that is going to be very, very interesting. Who does he bring in? Very likely it's going to be a back four, so 2 center backs. Which 2 center backs he uses and how he uses them will be very interesting, but it's something he's going to have to prioritize over the next 2 years. Develop a diverse strategy of tactics. We are the United States of America, and our place in the soccer world, in the football world, demands flexibility. We are not a top team in the world. So we cannot afford to go out and play attacking possession soccer 100% of the time, even against teams that are better than us, and expect that that's going to get us results. It might get you a result here and there, but for the most part, on large sample sizes, the better teams will win if you try to play like that. At the same time, we are the big boys in CONCACAF, and we are better than probably most teams in the world, and we should take the game to them and want the ball and attack opponents and make their lives difficult and try to break them down one way or another. Now, you have to have both styles of play. Greg had one style of play, one formation, right? And that never changed over the course of 6 years. It's all he knew, right? It was like a broken record with Greg. We can't afford to be that. We cannot play against Panama and Brazil the same way, right? We have to diversify not only our, formational setup, but our approach to attacking and defending, right? We never got good at counterattacks or set pieces under Greg. We never had a plan. Even our defending in transition was often poor. What's the plan when we face teams better than us? What's the plan when we face teams we're supposed to beat? What's the plan when we face teams that are there or thereabouts with us? This is going to be a huge part of Pochettino's job. And if you look back at his tenure, he's played multiple formations. It's mostly 4-2-3-1, yes, but at times with Spurs, he played a back three, right? Sometimes it was a 4-2-3-1 / 4-4-2 at PSG. Even at PSG, when he would play lesser teams, it would be 4-2-3-1 with Neymar, Mbappe, Di Maria, and Messi all there in the attacking forward roles. Against better teams, Di Maria would come out and would become more of a 4-3-3. So he did show that flexibility and adaptability, and I think that's going to be important that he brings that to the national team. Number 7, kick dual national recruiting into overdrive. Now, recently, our dual nat recruiting has not been going well. We've lost a lot of players that I don't think we should be losing. Guys like Noel Buck, or Obed Vargas, or Fidel Barajas, or Esmir Baraktarevic. We haven't done as good a job recently with dual nat recruiting as we think we've done. Now, obviously, you can't just go recruit everybody because they happen to be a dual national, but there are high-level dual nationals that we should be putting a full-court press on to come and play for us. The 3 that come to mind are Luca Koleosho, Diego Cochin, and Noah Kai Banks. These are guys that are eligible to represent other countries and very likely have very high ceilings. So even though they may not be ready for 2026, although Koleosho probably would be. In fact, Koleosho might be pushing to start for this team right now. Koleosho is a guy we should absolutely focus on getting. I know he's with Italy right now, but no final decision has been made. And a guy like Pochettino comes and talks to you and makes his case, you listen because it's Pochettino, right? So I think dual nat recruiting is going to be important. And even though he's only here for 2 years or maybe a little bit longer, he will have power to approach players and get them to come and play for our program. And he'll have a lot more power than Greg ever did because of the respect and the pedigree that he commands. That's going to be really important. And the guys that he recruits now won't just impact for the next 2 years. It'll impact for the next 5 or 10 or longer. So that's going to be a big part of his mandate as U.S. men's national team coach. All right, guys, those are my 7 things I think Pochettino needs to do as he takes the USMNT job. Let me know if I missed any. What do you think are some crucial things he needs to be involved in as we go forward with this team? So I'm excited to hear your thoughts in the comments. Smash that subscribe button if you have not already. Like button as well. Have a great week, guys. I'll see you soon.